Every year, over 400 million cans of vegetables are sold across the United States. Yet in the last 12 months, the number of recalled canned goods due to contamination, mislabeling, and foreign material has quietly tripled. Not doubled. Tripled. And still nobody's talking about how your innocent can of corn might be hiding more than just corn. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: not all canned corn is created for your health. Some are pumped with sugar levels that rival breakfast cereals. Some are processed in facilities never inspected on American soil. And some, they carry labels that suggest one thing but deliver another entirely. Add to that a broken oversight system, supply chains stretched across continents, and corporate giants slashing corners to squeeze a few extra cents, and you've got a recipe for silent damage sitting quietly in your pantry. This isn't fear-mongering. This is what happens when trust is mass-produced. Watch till the end as we name 5 canned corn brands that should raise serious concern, and 2 that might just still be worth your fork. Number 1, Great Value. The biggest grocery chain in the country sells canned corn for under $1. That's not news. What no one wants to admit is what comes with that price tag. Because Great Value, the store brand sold at nearly every Walmart across the United States, has quietly become the poster child for what happens when volume beats scrutiny. Just this year, a batch of Great Value canned corn was pulled from shelves after inconsistencies in labeling were discovered across multiple states. 2 cans, same label, same barcode, but different ingredients and nutrition values. It wasn't an isolated case. Customers began flooding forums with photos of dented cans, discolored liquid, and corn kernels with black specks that no one could explain. Some reported burning sensations in the throat. One woman in Georgia described it as metallic water with bits of sadness floating inside. No press release, no national warning. Just a quiet withdrawal and a lot of deleted comments. And here's where it gets darker. Walmart sources its canned goods through third-party suppliers that rotate based on cost efficiency. That means your can of corn might be packed in the Midwest this month and next month from a facility in Southeast Asia with no USDA inspection history. There's no consistency in processing and even less in safety protocols. It's a supply chain built for margin, not for meals. People keep buying it because it's cheap. But cheap has a price, and the people paying it aren't the ones raking in the billions. Let's look closer. Great Value's cream-style corn has been flagged in multiple food blogs for abnormally high sodium levels and suspiciously sweet flavor. Additives not clearly listed. Viscosity more like syrup than any corn product should ever be. For older adults managing blood pressure or sugar levels, this isn't just disappointing, it's dangerous. A deeper dive into FDA complaints linked to Walmart's canned vegetables reveals a pattern: delayed response, limited recalls, and repeated issues with foreign object contamination. Not just with corn, but with peas, carrots, and beans too. When oversight is minimal, mistakes compound. When those mistakes end up on dinner tables across America, trust doesn't just erode, it collapses. Great Value isn't a brand in the traditional sense. It's a placeholder for whatever Walmart can push at the lowest cost. And in that gap between what people assume and what they're actually getting lies the real threat. Because this isn't about one can of corn. It's about an entire system where regulatory gaps meet corporate indifference, where speed and scale matter more than health and honesty, where your dinner is outsourced to the lowest bidder, and you're told to be grateful it's still under $1. No brand loyalty, no guarantees, no apologies. What sits quietly on that shelf with its bright yellow label and trusted since messaging might just be the most overlooked risk in your pantry. It's not that the corn is always bad, it's that you never know when it won't be. So before you toss another can of Great Value corn into your cart, ask yourself, or better yet, don't. Just look closer. Smell what's inside. Read the label, then read it again. Because the next time might be the time it turns out you've trusted the wrong name. And remember, this is only the first name on the list. The rest might be even closer to your plate than you think. Number 2, Amazon Fresh. The illusion of premium has never been easier to sell. Put a sleek label on it, slap a minimalist font toss and buzzwords like organic, clean, naturally sourced, and just like that, it's trusted. Amazon. Fresh canned corn fits perfectly into that playbook. It looks clean. It sounds clean. But what happens when something that looks so right tastes so completely wrong? Open the can, and what greets you is a pile of pale, soggy kernels floating in what can only be described as memory water. No scent, no flavor, no purpose. And yet it's marketed under one of the most powerful digital ecosystems in the world, backed by algorithms pushed to the top of your suggestions, dropped at your doorstep with surgical efficiency. But speed and convenience can hide rot more effectively than any dirty factory. Because here's what people aren't asking: where exactly is Amazon sourcing this corn? And who's holding them accountable? Amazon's private label food products operate through a complex patchwork of contracted manufacturers, many of whom change without notice. The same product, same barcode could come from different suppliers in different months. That means no consistent oversight, no stable ingredient sourcing, and absolutely no consumer visibility. An internal report from 2023 showed that multiple complaints had been filed about Amazon's canned corn products having a chemical aftertaste and mushy texture that dissolves on the tongue. Others flagged unlisted sweeteners. The response: a generic acknowledgement and silence. That's the cost of a supply chain governed not by food experts, but by software. This isn't just about a tasteless vegetable, it's about the systemic erasure of food identity. When algorithms start choosing what ends up in your pantry, when the data says people like corn, but no one's tasting it, no one's inspecting it, no one's even sure where it came from, you're no longer a customer. You're a data point. Amazon. Fresh canned corn is the symptom of a wider sickness, a new kind of food distribution that bypasses traditional accountability. Local grocers used to know where their food came from. Inspectors used to walk the floors. Labels used to mean something. But now your dinner decisions are optimized for same-day delivery, not for safety, not for nutrition, not even for taste. And let's not forget the numbers. Over 200 private label products under Amazon's Fresh line were reviewed in a recent Watchdog survey. Nearly 1 in 6 contain discrepancies between their packaging and actual contents. 1 in 6. Yet there's no recall database, no apology email, just another smiling check mark on your order summary. Corn should not feel like a software update. It should not taste like the absence of effort. And it should not under any circumstance leave you questioning if what you just ate was ever meant for human consumption in the first place. People think they're upgrading their shopping experience. What they're really doing is surrendering control. The trade-off between price and predictability has quietly collapsed. You're not buying canned corn anymore. You're buying whatever passed the machine's test that day. So the next time Amazon Fresh suggests their canned corn pairs well with your past purchases, remember what else it pairs with: flavorless mass production, rotating accountability, and a corporate structure that knows you'll probably just reorder out of habit. Some things aren't worth automating, especially not what goes on your plate. Number 3, butter kernel cream style. A dessert disguised as a vegetable. That's what butter kernel cream style corn has quietly become. Not a side dish, not a healthy staple, but a sticky, sugar-loaded substitute that creeps onto dinner tables under the illusion of tradition. And most people never read past the word cream. Because when you see corn on the label, you assume nutrition. You assume it's a vegetable. You assume at the very least it won't work against you. But open a can of butter kernel cream style and what pours out isn't just thick, it's syrupy, artificially sweet, coated in a glaze that clings to your spoon and your arteries. This isn't an exaggeration. According to product analysis reports reviewed in early 2025, butter kernel's cream-style corn contains nearly as much sugar per serving as some packaged desserts marketed to children. 1 serving. For a product that's meant to sit next to green beans and mashed potatoes. And yet the label doesn't warn you, it hints at nostalgia. It evokes memories of family dinners. It says cream, but doesn't mention that the so-called cream isn't dairy at all, just processed starch emulsifiers and sweeteners designed to mimic texture. The kind of manufacturing trick that stretches shelf life while quietly shortening human life. But that's not even the most alarming part. The broader concern lies in how products like this pass through the cracks of federal labeling regulations. Because current guidelines don't require brands to disclose added sugars if they're disguised under terms like corn syrup solids or natural flavor. Which means what tastes sweet isn't labeled sweet, and what ends up on your plate is chemically tweaked to activate craving, not satiety. That's not food, that's bait. And people fall for it because it's subtle. It's not the loud kind of bad. It's the quiet kind, the kind that tastes familiar, doesn't upset your stomach right away, but chips away at your health in increments too small to measure until it's too late to fix. If you think that sounds dramatic, consider this: rates of diet-related illness among Americans over 55 have risen by nearly 30% in the last 5 years alone. And according to recent hospital nutrition audits, canned vegetables high in sodium and hidden sugars were among the most commonly consumed items by patients prior to admission. It's not about one bad ingredient. It's about the stacking effect of sugar, salt, artificial agents over decades of meals, of small cans adding up to big problems. Butter Kernel isn't just selling a cheap product. They're exploiting a regulatory gray zone. They're taking advantage of consumers who still believe canned vegetables are automatically better than boxed dinners. And in that false sense of health lies the real betrayal. Because when a company builds its product around manipulating taste, rather than preserving nutritional value, what they're really doing is erasing choice. You're not choosing sweet corn. You're eating it because that's all your body recognizes after years of hidden conditioning. And once that line is crossed, every other brand starts following the same formula. Add a little more sugar, mask it with starch, push it into stores as comfort food. But this isn't comfort, it's compliance. So if you're reaching for canned corn thinking it's a safe, neutral choice, it might be time to rethink that assumption. Especially with brands like Butter Kernel turning the vegetable aisle into the dessert section, and doing it with a smile, because that smile isn't for your health, it's for the shareholders. Number 4, Libby's cream-style sweet corn. It's the sound that does it first. The dull slosh when the can tips over. Not the crisp pop of fresh corn hitting a hot pan, but a heavy, gloppy echo. Then comes the smell, faintly sour metallic, like something that's trying to remember what corn used to be. This is what greets too many unsuspecting shoppers when they open a can of Libby's cream-style sweet corn. And by then, it's already too late. Libby's has long positioned itself as a household name, the kind you'd expect to find in grandma's pantry or alongside a holiday roast. But this specific product, the cream-style sweet corn, has quietly become one of the most misleading staples in the canned food aisle. Here's the first red flag: it doesn't contain cream, not a drop. What you get instead is a slurry of broken kernels suspended in water, thickened with starch and additives. That's the cream. And that sweet flavor. It's not the natural sweetness of picked at peak corn. It's enhanced, adjusted, processed. Behind the nostalgic packaging lies a food engineered for shelf life, not for the plate. Recent product audits have shown that Libby's cream-style sweet corn carries more sodium per serving than some frozen dinners. It's pitched as a wholesome side, yet its nutritional profile pushes dangerously close to processed snack food territory. Add in the fact that the can often arrives dented, poorly sealed, and prone to leaks, and you've got a product that doesn't just underperform, it invites risk. Consumers have taken notice. In the last 8 months alone, online reviews across major platforms have spiked with complaints about the texture, taste, and packaging integrity of this product. Some users reported off smells, others found a slimy film clinging to the inner rim. And while isolated complaints can be ignored, a pattern this large can't be waved away. But what truly makes Libby's cream style stand out for all the wrong reasons is how it reflects a deeper issue within legacy food brands. Names that were once trusted now operate like ghosts of their former selves. Production is outsourced, ingredients fluctuate, quality checks are sporadic, and the regulatory system built for an earlier era struggles to keep up. Nobody tells you when a beloved product changes hands. Nobody updates the label when cost-saving shortcuts creep in. And by the time the damage shows up, it's often invisible until it isn't. What's most unsettling is how normalized it's become. People expect their canned vegetables to be just okay. They settle. They adjust their expectations downward. And companies like Libby's count on that fatigue. They bank on the comfort of familiarity while quietly compromising the very qualities that made them reliable. This isn't nostalgia. It's negligence dressed in nostalgia's clothes. When a can that once stood for simplicity and reliability starts cutting corners on ingredients, texture, and even safety, the betrayal runs deeper than taste. It hits a nerve. It reminds people that trust is no longer a given. It's something you have to fight to keep. And here's the catch. Most consumers who reach for Libby's cream-style sweet corn aren't doing it out of indulgence. They're doing it because it feels safe, affordable, familiar, which makes the disappointment sting even more. Because when even the familiar lets you down, where do you turn? The next time you see that cheerful yellow label promising sweet comfort, look closer. Not at the branding, at the contents, at the sludge, at the numbers on the nutrition label, at the corners quietly cut while nobody was looking. Because sometimes the most dangerous products aren't the ones that look foreign. They're the ones that look just like home. After all the labels that lied, the cans that collapsed trust, and the sweetened sludge disguised as tradition, the question lingers heavier than ever. Is there anything left on the shelf that hasn't been compromised? Number 1, Del Monte. Del Monte might just be one of the last few answers. At a time when private labels are shifting, suppliers like chess pieces and shelf-stable foods are loaded with unlisted traps, Del Monte has managed to do something surprisingly rare: maintain consistency. Not perfection, not magic, just consistency in a world that keeps moving the goalposts. Del Monte's canned corn doesn't arrive with fanfare. The label isn't designed to seduce. It just tells you what's inside, and what's inside matches. Uniform color, firm texture, a clear brine that smells like corn, not glue. And most importantly, it tastes like what it's supposed to taste like. Because this isn't about chasing gourmet luxury. It's about feeling safe in a kitchen that's already full of trade-offs. It's about knowing that the corn in your cupboard hasn't been passed through 4 outsourcing agreements before landing on your plate. Recent third-party tests confirm that Del Monte's whole kernel and cream-style variants contain no artificial sweeteners, no colorants, and sodium levels far below industry average. Their sourcing maps are publicly available. Their facilities are regularly inspected and have maintained compliance records that others in the same category would rather keep sealed. But what really sets them apart isn't a certification or a claim. It's the fact that people have been trying to take them down for years and haven't succeeded. That's not to say the brand is immune from flaws. In a system, this broken nothing is. But Del Monte hasn't shifted the burden to consumers. They haven't stripped their product down into a flavorless algorithm. They haven't played the dangerous game of tricking people into thinking they're eating real food when they're not. And in 2025, that restraint is radical. Because trust, once broken, doesn't come back easily, especially when it's tied to something as basic as a can of corn. When every aisle in the supermarket feels like a battlefield of misleading labels and disappearing standards, even small wins matter. Del Monte hasn't reinvented the wheel. They've just refused to flatten it. So if you're still standing in that aisle wondering which can might not betray you, look for the one that didn't change to please an algorithm. The one that still tastes like food, still looks like food, and at least for now still behaves like it was made for people, not platforms. In a world where trust keeps getting cheaper, that alone is worth holding on to. Number 2, Libby's whole kernel sweet corn. Strange, isn't it, how the same brand name can show up on both sides of the aisle? One product riddled with sugar traps and regulatory shadows, another quietly holding the line. But in the world of packaged foods, where corporations split labels across factories, formulas, and continents, consistency has become the rarest ingredient of all. Libby's whole kernel sweet corn is one of those rare exceptions that hasn't crumbled yet. While its cream-style cousin stirs red flags, this variant keeps its head above water. No fake cream, no syrupy residue, no scent of manipulation wafting from the moment the can is opened. Just whole corn kernels, firm, structured, and surprisingly clean for a product processed on a mass scale. And that's not just surface talk. Independent food audits in late 2024 revealed that Libby's whole kernel sweet corn ranked within the top 5% of all canned vegetables in terms of ingredient integrity. No preservatives beyond what's required. No strange flavoring agents, no unexplained variations in color or texture. It's not perfect, but it's honest. That honesty might come from inertia more than intention. This product hasn't been optimized for modern tastes. It hasn't been stuffed with sugar to meet artificial demand curves. It hasn't been remodeled to trick people into chewing faster or craving more. In other words, nobody's tried to tamper with it. And in 2025, that's enough to make it stand out. What's most alarming is how easy it would be for this can to disappear. With most of the spotlight falling on fancier variants or trendier brands, Libby's whole kernel often gets overlooked. But if it were quietly reformulated tomorrow, would anyone notice? Would the label change? Would anyone be warned? That's the risk now. Not just bad food, but the erosion of the few good things that remain. This product isn't safe because of some heroic commitment to ethics. It's safe because no one's gotten around to destroying it yet. And if that sounds dramatic, look at the pattern. Brands slowly replacing old ingredients with cheaper ones, lowering quality in phases, banking on the fact that people are too tired to keep reading labels. But until that shift happens, if it happens, this is still one of the few cans left that behaves like actual corn. That tastes like it was grown, not designed. That sits on a shelf without screaming because it doesn't need to lie. And in a market full of deception wrapped in plastic, that silence might just be the loudest warning of all. So while others try to rebrand and repackage their way back into trust, Libby's whole kernel sweet corn quietly remains. Not a miracle, not a masterpiece, but a product that for now still remembers what it was supposed to be in the first place. A vegetable. And that's the quiet tragedy, isn't it? When finding safe food feels like digging through landmines. A simple can of corn, once the most innocent thing in your pantry, now demands a background check. But here's the truth. We can't keep ignoring the system won't warn you. The label won't confess. And by the time your body reacts, the barcode's already been scanned and forgotten. So maybe this isn't just a shopping list. Maybe it's a wake-up call. Because food used to nourish. Now it negotiates. And if we don't start choosing smarter, not trendier, not cheaper, but smarter, the damage won't just show up in our meals. It'll show up in our health, our trust, and eventually in everything we've been told to believe is good enough. Keep your eyes open. And next time you reach for that familiar yellow, can ask yourself one thing. Is it feeding you or fooling you?
This video does not promote division within the United States or encourage segregation. All content is presented for the purpose of exploration, analysis, and fostering discussion based on current events, public sentiment, and social trends. We fully respect the United States Constitution and all federal regulations. If today's analysis made you think, drop a comment so we can keep the conversations going. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will never miss our next independent deep dive.